Only where it suits will you pay the price of anti-Zionism, of hostility to Israel and its governing political system. David Miller's victory is a landmark judgment. That's why they're already burning the midnight oil to change British law to try and overturn the verdict of the tribunal. But there's not enough time left in this Parliament for that to happen. And so everyone watching, in Britain at least, should know that the things they've been chanting, that the views they've been expressing, that the feelings they have inside of them are entirely lawful, and no one can stop them from expressing them. The situation in the rest of the Gaza Strip reached perhaps its apex this week. Every so often in a conflict, like when I brought little Mariam Hamza back from Iraq to Britain for treatment for leukemia, becomes an emblem of a much wider issue, of a much bigger cause. And a new emblem arose in Palestine this week. This little girl, Hind, aged 6 years old, was traveling with her family in a car when the Israeli occupation force began firing on the car. They killed the adults first, and then they killed Hind's sister when she was on the telephone telling the Red Crescent Society, the Palestinian Red Cross, of where they were and what was happening to them. The sister then was killed, leaving this 6-year-old girl alive in a car with her slain family, her slaughtered family, lying beside her. And the audio, when she took the phone, will live forever. The audio in which she describes, a 6-year-old girl describes that they are under fire, that her family are all dead, as she begs the ambulance to come and take her, to come and rescue her. The ambulance coordinated through the hotline which they have with the occupation force to say that they were going to pick up the little girl. And when they got there, the same Israeli killers murdered the 2 ambulance men who had arrived to pick up the little girl before murdering her. This girl had funny ears, funny glasses, funny toys, a cheeky smile, just like my daughters, just like yours, just like your granddaughters, and now she's dead. And worse, she was killed in unbelievable scenes of cruelty, of viciousness, of evil, an evil that would not be more evil or less evil than the evil of the executioners in the death camps of the Holocaust in the Second World War. They willfully murdered this little girl. They willfully murdered the ambulance men that came to save her. They knew what they were doing. They are now asleep, or perhaps haunted and unable to sleep by the cold-blooded act of murder of a small child. And we have to remember this little girl every time we're asked to boycott McDonald's, boycott Starbucks, boycott Labour, which has supported this carnage, this genocide throughout. We have to remember the face of that little girl if ever we feel our resolve is weakening to do everything, anything in our power to come to the aid of the other little girls and little boys and their mothers and fathers, grandparents and their siblings and their uncles and their aunts who have not been killed yet. Hind will live forever in our minds, I pray to God, just like little Faris O'Day did, the boy throwing the stone at the tank in previous iterations of this catastrophe. Think Hind. Think always of Hind. Think of her in that car with all her dead family around her. Think of the terror. Think of the fear, horror that she experienced. And think of this. Aged 6, this little girl lived every single day of her life under siege. And her last breaths were breaths of absolute terror and horror. She lived in fear all of her life and died in scenes of unimaginable horror. We don't know at what point they killed her. We must now hope that she was killed quickly, that she was not left in the car with her festering family and then executed later when it suited the killers to do so. Perhaps when she was beginning to become an icon, the Anne Frank of the Palestinian population.